All right, slide number 15. So now let's focus on accuracy. Right now, we just want to know how we can measure the accuracy of a forecast. So this is before I explain how we can forecast a time series, and now I'm just explaining the error before the forecasting, because this way we can find out which way is the better way. So let me just explain it quickly, and then we will see some examples, some methods of forecasting. So so this is a general formula in here, and forecast error gonna be the actual data value minus the forecast. So for any data point, we can have an actual value for every single one of those data points in the time series. We have an actual value. This is the measured value. And we're going to have a forecast. Sorry for that. Okay. And we're going to have a forecast value as well. And this comes from the method. It depends on which method we're going to use. We're going to have a forecast. For example, if you use regression, we're going to have a formula that gives us the value based on the time. And some other methods, they have different ways to just give us the forecast. But we're going to see this later. But for now, let's assume that we have the forecast value and we're going to find out the forecast error. So this is the formula. We will find that forecast error this way. So always, actual value always comes first. Sorry about that again, because happening again and again. So actual value comes first always, and the difference is going to be forecast error. If the difference is positive number or value, that means we underestimated the actual value, and if it's negative, we overestimated the actual value, but just terms. So, for example, again, we have a formula, we have terms. You just need to get used to these terms and letters in here. These are symbols, sorry, and just assume that y. So y represents the actual value and f represents the forecast value. In that case, for the first data point, we don't have any kind of forecast. So for that reason, we can't do anything about it. But for the second one, let's say that we just assume that don't just think about why we don't have the first forecast too much. We will see later, but for now, we just assume that this is not there. We don't have it, so it doesn't exist. But for the second one, we do have the forecast and we do have the actual value. So we're going to just do subtraction. We find out error 2, error 3, error 4, and it just goes on and on until we reach this one. So let's see one example. Here's one example. And just to have some kind of forecast in here, I want to point out this method. So let me explain what kind of method we used in here. First of all, these are the weeks. So week number 1, week number 2, 3. So that would be, sorry about that. So that would be time. And these are time series values, So this is X, then this is Y. And over here, we're using a method called, if you see, 1717, it's a copy 2121. So we're using a method very simple and easy to do. It's called naive. So this is a naive method, and we simply, what we're doing here is using the previous actual value. So for week 2, we forecast, nothing changed from last week. For week 3, we just assume that nothing changed. We just want to use not the previous value, but the previous measured value. So the actual value for the previous week, we're going to point that in here. So we use this value in here and this value over there. These are copies. These are forecast and these are actual values. So the difference here would be, if you use the formula, going to be 4, use the formula in here, going to be -2. So like I said, positive and minus, just going to have a specific meaning. We don't care for now, but let me explain. Sometimes we just want to know how much is the absolute value. So that's the explanation why we have this column in here, absolute value of forecast, because error is simply the absolute value of the error. We don't care in error if the error is positive or negative. We just care about the number. We just want to minimize error, not just make it positive or negative. So that's the reason we're doing this. And if you make it a squared, it's going to be, number is going to be this. Sometimes we want to have a less person, because guess what? If you have big numbers, of course, the error is going to be bigger, and square for square error is going to be bigger, because we just make these into we're going to square these values. So bigger the actual value, bigger squared error values. So to make it just sense, to just have something that makes sense, what we do in here is making or converting these errors into percent. So these are percentage errors. So to find out percentage errors, we do this over the actual value. So it would be 4 over time series values, I guess. So these are percentage. Let me just double check the formula. Yep. This is the formula. So ET over YT. And if you remember, Y was the actual value of that time. So like I said, 17, 4. And to just find out the percentage in here, we need to do this division, 4 over 21, because 21 is the actual value in that row. Okay. And we're going to find out 19, and then absolute value of those. Again, we're going to have plus and minus in here. To just get rid of those, we're making those in squared. We're going to find out the absolute value of those. Sorry for that, absolute value of those. So these are the values. If you add them all, we're going to have this number. I'll show you the formulas that we need in here. But for now, I just wanted to explain how these columns works. Mean forecast error. So what this formula is, maybe I can explain here. What the formula is explaining is mean of forecast errors, MFE, mean forecast error. And it just explains that we need to find out ETs, and ETs are errors, and we need to add them all and make it over n minus k. And a k number, the k number is that the number of periods that we don't have any forecast for. So if you come here, we just have 1 point without forecast. So the k in this case is going to be 1. But remember that this k always is the number of periods of in the time series that we don't have any forecast for. It's going to be different. For now, it's 1. So if you consider 1, n is the number of data points, number of measurements, if you like. And the formula in that case is going to be T from 2 to n. It means that from 2 to n, and in this case is 12, it means that all the errors. So add all the errors together. It simply means add all the errors together over number of those, right? And minus k, we have 12 of them. K is 1, it's going to be 11. So we have just errors for 11 values, right? So it means that just find these errors, and calculate the mean. That's it. So mean forecast errors. So this in here, if you double check, we don't have any absolute symbol in here. If you consider absolute value of errors, the formula becomes this. So that belongs to this column. So the mean of this column is going to be in here. It's going to be mean absolute error. So mean forecast error, mean absolute error. How about this one? So this one, again, double check it here. E has a power of 2. So this is E squared. So that means that this belongs to this column in here, squared forecast error. So if you calculate the mean number in here, that would be what this formula says. So this is that simple. So just add them all, add all the squared value of errors, and over how many of those we have. So like I said again, I'm saying that again, K is the number of data points without any forecast, without forecast. So K is 1 in here. You just have one of those without forecast. So simply it's the average of these. The other formula in here, don't be scared because it's just a crazy complicated formula. It simply means add all the percentages, multiply them to 100, because this would be a number, this would be a rate, right? And if you multiply by 10, by 100, that becomes these numbers. So these are percentages, right? Percentages. 19 means 19%. So if you do this, the E over the actual value times 100, you can come up with these numbers, right? We can come up with these numbers. So this, what I'm saying here, this column represents, you can calculate that column with this formula. And if you consider the absolute value of that, it's going to be the top part. If you consider them all, over n minus k, if you add them all, over n minus k, that would be the average of that column. We call this average of that column, we call that number, the average, mean absolute percentage error. So mean absolute, mean of absolute, because we consider absolute value, percentage error. So again, that would be the mean of this column here. So as you see, these are just pretty easy to do. And the only thing you need to do is using a spreadsheet. If you use a spreadsheet like a Microsoft Excel, everything would be really, really easy to do. And I'm going to explain how you can do it yourself. So let me just do it here. Okay, so what I'm doing here is I'm using Microsoft Excel. And I really encourage you to use Microsoft Excel, because that would be really easier. Everything we do in here would be really easier if you use Microsoft Excel. you're going to save a lot of time. So if you can use something like Google Sheets, that works too. I think that works too. But here, what I'm doing is I'm using Microsoft Excel here. So if you have a Microsoft Excel installed on your computer, you can just follow whatever I'm saying, whatever I'm explaining in here. So, okay. So let me just make up the table you have on your slides in here. So what I'm going to do here is just making that up. Week. The first column is week. The next column is time, series. I'm just copying everything that you have on the table. So copying series value. And the other one is forecast. So I'm going to use F to just make it easier and save time. And the other one going to be forecaster. I'm using F and E to just say forecaster. I'm using absolute values of forecaster. So absolute value of forecast error. Okay, you know what? I think I'm going to be just typing out everything that we have over there, but because I don't want to waste your time, so I'm going to pause and then I play when I'm ready to go. Okay, so there you go. This is what I have so far. 17, 21. I'm just checking the values in here. 19, 23, 18, 16, 20, 18, 22, 20, 15, and there's no 22 after that. So, yeah, there's 22 after that. Okay, so let me just fill out this part too. We should have 12 of these. So what I have in here is the copy of whatever we have on the table. So these are the values, weeks, and now I'm ready to make up the forecast. So what I'm going to do in here is I'm using the formula. And in Microsoft Excel, you can use formulas. You can build some formulas if you need so. So for that, you need to double click on this cell, double click on the cell and type equal signs. And after equal sign, after that you type equal sign, it just means that you are you are gonna make a formula. So Microsoft Excel expects to see something like a formula, and it means you can add right now you can add a value. You can type a value over there, or you can add a cell as a reference to that value. So if I click on this one, it just shows automatically at the corner B2. That means this B2 is the reference, is the name of that cell right over there. So I'm going to do that. You check, this shows in a blue color. The other one is the blue color, it just represents that. To just make it done, you need to you just need to press enter and then gone. So now this cell represents what's over there. It just shows the value over there. Now to repeat the other parts, because I have the same thing over and over, what you can do is you can autofill the formula. It just means that you copy the formula all over there. And because the formula is not a value, it's just equal B2, that cell, it's going to copy the formula. And because the Excel is pretty smart, so let me just copy and paste in here. Because Excel is smart, it just knows that what you're going to do and just follows your direction. So now you see this is this cell following the formula. Wherever you go, that follows you. So that's good. The other way I can copy this is clicking here. If you stay here at the corner and drag it over there, it's going to be the same thing. Now to just check, you can check here, which is this bar in here is called formula bar. If you click here, it shows that cell, so you can check everything's fine. So double check the table and make sure I'm doing this right. I'm doing the same thing. Yeah, I'm doing basically the same thing. So let's build forecast error. Now, again, I'm using equal sign. Click on this cell in here because that's the actual value, minus, plus minus, and that is the forecast. So this one equal. Okay, remember I don't have any forecast in here. So this is the data point that I don't have any forecast for. So K is 1. And yeah, that's the forecast error. I'm gonna autofill. The other way you can fill this part is just double click at the corner. It fills out the empty part. And click on the formula bar, make sure everything's fine, hit enter, and get out from that mode. Now, again, double check, everything is exactly the same. Now I'm gonna make it absolute. So to just use the absolute function, you just need to search the name of absolute function. So Google absolute function in Excel, you'll find this ABS, I guess. So now when I check ABS of what? Of this. And remember that you need to close down the function. Every function in Excel has a pair of parentheses. So you have to close down the parentheses. You click here in the formula bar and hit enter. You get out the mode. Double click at the corner, fill up, and make sure everything's right. So now absolute value of -5 is 577, everything's fine. Here, I need to make everything here squared. So you need to use squared function. Again, if you check, I assume that would be SQRT, but if you just want to make sure, Google the term square function in Microsoft Excel. Just to use that, you need to type SQRT, double click here, it fills that out for you. And now you just need to feed the function. I want to feed it with this cell. So click here, cell reference comes over there, close it down. You need to close down the parentheses and hit enter. No, sorry, SQRT is a square root, so it's not a square. So to build up square, sorry for that, I don't know why I've done this. So SQRT is for square root, and that's why there was number 2. So always you have to check and make sure this is the right function you want to use. So I don't know, so I'm gonna build it myself. It's not a big deal. You just need to click on the cell and use the power. The power is just this character, power of 2. There you go. Whatever over there is, whatever is in here, make it into the power of 2. And that character means to the power of 2. So there you go. I'm building that myself. So filling this part, 49, everything is correct. The other one is percentage. So remember that based on the formula, you have to get this value, make it over this actual value, and make it times. So click here. Everything here should be times 100. So for multiplication, use a star, 100. There you go. The value is almost the same. But let me show you something over there. To control this, this many, you have like a lot of decimal numbers. To control how many decimal numbers you want to have, you can click home, and then this one here. On using these two, you can control how many decimal points you want to you want the Microsoft Excel to show. So there you go. I'm not sure if you can see them all. I just want to make it a little bigger. Sorry for that. Let me just make it bigger. Yep. Have no idea why I haven't done this earlier. Okay. Yeah. Now everything is better, I assume. So let's double click. Everything's fine. Hope you can see all the things that I've done in here. I hope. So All right, so for this part, you just need to use the absolute function. So remember that, ABS. An absolute value of this one, close it down, controlled by those two that I just showed you. And remember one thing, if you don't see whatever you're supposed to see in cells, and instead it just shows a bunch of hashtag kind of symbol, it just simply means that the room here is not enough to show the value. It's not an error message. So that means you just basically need to make the cell bigger. This is how you can do this. All right, let's do those formulas. So to just work on the formulas, to find an error based on the formulas that we did together, we need to take average of these, right? So there is an average function in here, and that is average. So like I said, you can Google that function in Excel and just use it. This is what I'm doing, what I'm doing in here. Exactly. So yeah, copy this formula, paste here, copy, paste, paste, and these are just averages. So what I'm doing here is I'm just taking averages of every one of those. And this is how you can build up all those average errors that we have seen. Okay, let me get back to these slides. Finding the slides here. There we go. So these are all averages, right? Mean basically means average. Mean. So MCE, mean square errors, right? Mean absolute percentage error, and on and on. So if you check in here, MAPE, which is mean absolute percentage error, for this table is 19.24%. Now, let me show you that quickly. Again, I'm coming back to the Excel file. I want to show you that value. 19, can you see that? 19.24%. That's the mean, like I said, average. So I'm using the average function to build that up, and you just saw how I can do this in Excel. So there you go. Yeah, what I'm going to do is I'm going to save this file, and I will put it in Portal so you can download and take a look at the values and the formulas that I'm using in here. But this is how Excel works, and this is how we can use the Excel to calculate those values. All right. Let me stop in here, and then I'll come back with the next part.